3,000 miles in active operation along the great valley of the St. Lawrence, connecting Riviera de Loup at the mouth of that river and the harbour of Portland in the state of Maine, via Montreal and Toronto, with Sarnia on Lake Huron, and with Windsor, opposite Detroit, in the state of Michigan. During the same time, the Australian colonies have been actively engaged in providing themselves with railways, many of which are at work, and others are in course of formation. The Cape of Good Hope has several lines open, and others making. France has constructed about 400 miles in Algeria, while the Pasha of Egypt is the proprietor of 360 miles in operation across the Egyptian desert. The Japanese are also making railroads. But in no country has railway construction been prosecuted with greater vigour than in the United States. There the railway furnishes not only the means of intercommunication between already established settlements, as in the Old World, but it is regarded as the pioneer of colonization and as instrumental in opening up new and fertile territories of vast extent in the West, the food grounds of future nations. Hence, railway construction in that country was scarcely interrupted even by the Great Civil War, at the commencement of which Mr. Seward publicly expressed the opinion that physical bonds, such as highways, railroads, rivers, and canals, are vastly more powerful for holding civil communities together than any mere covenants, though written on parchment or engraved on iron. The people of the United States were the first to follow the example of England, after the practicability of steam locomotion had been proved on the Stockton and Darlington, and Liverpool and Manchester railways. The first sod of the Baltimore and Ohio Railway was cut on the 4th of July, 1828, and the line was completed and opened for traffic the following year, when it was worked partly by horsepower and partly by a locomotive built at Baltimore, which is still preserved in the company's workshops. In 1830 the Hudson and Mohawk Railway was begun, while other lines were under construction in Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and New Jersey, and in the course of 10 years 1,843 miles were finished and in operation. In 10 more years, 8,827 miles were at work. At the end of 1864, 35,000 miles, and at the 31st of December, 1873, not less than 70,651 miles were in operation, of which 3,916 had been made during that year. One of the most extensive trunk lines is the Great Pacific Railroad, connecting the lines in the valleys of the Mississippi and the Missouri with the city of San Francisco on the shores of the Pacific, by means of which it is possible to make the journey from England to Hong Kong via New York in little more than a month. The results of the working of railways have been in many respects different from those anticipated by their projectors. One of the most unexpected has been the growth of an immense passenger traffic. The Stockton and Darlington line was projected as a coal line only, and the Liverpool and Manchester as a merchandise line. Passengers were not taken into account as a source of revenue, for at the time of their projection it was not believed that people would trust themselves to be drawn upon a railway by an explosive machine, as the locomotive was described to be. Indeed, a writer of eminence declared that he would as soon think of being fired off on a ricochet rocket as travel on a railway at twice the speed of the old stage-coaches. So great was the alarm which existed as to the locomotive, that the Liverpool and Manchester Committee pledged themselves, in their second prospectus, issued in 1825, not to require any clause empowering its use, and as late as 1829 the Newcastle and Carlisle Act was conceded on the express condition that the line should not be worked by locomotives, but by horses only. Nevertheless, the Liverpool and Manchester Company obtained powers to make and work their railway without any such restriction, and when the line was made and opened, a locomotive passenger train was advertised to be run upon it by way of experiment. Greatly to the surprise of the directors, more passengers presented themselves as travellers by the train than could conveniently be carried. The first arrangements as to passenger traffic were of a very primitive character, being mainly copied from the old stagecoach system. The passengers were booked at the railway office, and their names were entered in a waybill, which was given to the guard when the train started. Though the usual stagecoach bugleman could not conveniently accompany the passengers, the trains were at first played out of the terminal stations by a lively tune performed by a trumpeter at the end of the platform, and this continued to be done at the Manchester station until a comparatively recent